Hey, what's up? I want to talk a little bit about baptism. Um, so when I was writing the New Covenant, actually I think a few days after that, I wrote just a small little few sentences on baptism, and it basically says that we're all baptized in the womb, like of our mother, and that, which basically means that we're all saved. Like God has already given us salvation through the mere just being this being part of this whole existence. Is our destiny is already salvation. And I truly believe that all of our destiny is salvation. And there's not one of us that won't be saved. And it's hard to see that, of course, because we see so many screw-ups, including ourselves, right? But it's hard to see that. And I know Jesus speaks a lot about, it would seem the opposite. There are some stories that, like the lost sheep, that would seem like we're all going to be saved. But there's other ones, like the wheat and the weeds, like burning the weeds. It's kind of like the evil will burn in hell and the righteous will live on, right? But I think that's more in relation to sin and not the sinner. And what we mean by sin is indulging in, it's basically indulging in the material world and in sinful, in power, and but that's the same thing. So it's indulgence in the material world, control of the material world. It's being in a state of addiction of the material world and not being able to let go of that material world. And letting go of that material world implies that surrender to God, that surrender to God, which liberates you from that material world. And so that's, now we all know that we can't live in the presence of purity while in sin. I mean, it's just opposites. And so that's a reality, in my opinion. The reality that you have to surrender to the will of God and be in the spirit of love to be saved, to be fulfilled. And you have to do it consciously. You can be fulfilled subconsciously, like kids, but they always have that desire. And so that desire takes them out of that fulfillment and into the consciousness. And then the consciousness continues with that desire until the consciousness chooses to come back to the Lord, to come back to God, to surrender into the spirit of love. And so we're all going to have to go through that road. We're all going to have to, I've said this before, but it's super important that we're all going to have to walk through that path. So you can't be saved without walking through that path. Through that path of surrender and of unconditional love, which goes along with faith as well. So we will all be saved, everyone in due time. So, and that just reinforces the we are all one belief. So baptism, I think, is we're already saved, but we do have to make a conscious decision to, like what the new covenant says, like surrender, laying down your life, the not fighting evil with evil, the living within the Spirit, and living within faith. So we do have to consciously come back, but we're already saved. That's, I mean, just by making that promise doesn't save you. It's actually living it. So it's living within the new covenant that's going to save you, and not, any initial promise that you might make or anything like that. But then again, your individual salvation, I think, is still dependent upon our salvation as a whole. Even though you can reach high levels of fulfillment and of salvation, quote unquote, as an individual, we're still very much dependent upon the collective spirit. And so, despite having our free will, we all need of the collective spirit and the collective unity, which is the the collective whole, which is love. We all need that connection with others, and so we'll never truly be truly fulfilled until we're all fulfilled. It's like, because we are one organism. And so the finger can't be fulfilled unless the whole body's fulfilled. Even though the finger might be in a very good state, as opposed to our liver or our lungs, who might be sick, right? But the whole organism is fighting and is striving for the betterment of everything else. And so, also, to add to the baptism thing, I wrote a few sentences as well about the resurrection, and that the resurrection will come when we all, I don't remember the exact words, I don't have a good literal memory. I have more of a conceptual, like what it means, memory. But the resurrection is basically when we all become fulfilled, and somehow we will become light. Like as a unit, we'll become light. And that's when the resurrection is basically when it's the defeat of the physical world. And light is kind of that defeat. Light goes beyond like the physical. Light seems like our passageway outside of this realm. And light is always associated with love. And so the resurrection is like, the resurrection is when you defeat death and you are resurrected, right? So life after death. And And it's basically the defeat of the physical. And it's not the defeat necessarily, but it's the union of the physical and the spiritual when they become one in light. And so the resurrection will come when we all become one, and when the physical becomes spiritual, and when the spiritual becomes physical. When there's no longer that gap between the kingdom of God and this world. When the kingdom of God arrives to earth truly, and everyone's in it, that's when, I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see. But it's that, like, we will be, that's our objective. That's our ultimate objective, is that resurrection as a collective, the collective resurrection of the human species. So I don't think it'll be like one person can do it on their own. It has to be all of us. Now, of course, for all of us to do it, everyone has to do their own part. And we all have an important role. And I've learned this in many team sports that I played in. That no matter how small your role is, even if it seems insignificant, every role is important, and every person, no matter how small your role is, it's fundamental. Without that very small piece, the whole thing collapses. Even though you might seem to be a small role player, you're just as important as the big role players. And so the unity, the whole, the team mentality is super important. And so, yeah, that's just my two cents on baptism and the resurrection. So that's, I think, it for tonight. May a prayer be with you. May a prayer be with us. May peace be amongst us. May peace be in your heart. May love be in your soul. May comfort be with you. And may love be in your heart. We will see you